the nostalgic attachment I have to retro video games. It soothes me. It completes me. And there's several topics I've always wanted to address. That's something we often talk about with my friends, specifically my podcast friends, and that's how we finish video games. And I am the kind of person who keeps starting new games. I'm starting new games without finishing my old games, so new games pile up. I can't play one video game at a time. Some people, like Robert of Gaming With Me, or my girlfriend, they take one video game, and from beginning to end, they just rinse it. I can't do that. For one, I have way too many games dating back way to the original NES. I have a backlog spanning thousands of video games, and that is literally what it is. Not even taking into account my Steam account. Like, it's crazy. Every generation there's games, and I just want to try out new things. A new game comes out, I want to put it in. I don't want to wait playing a new video game. New Zelda drops in a month. Do you think I'm gonna wait to play a new Zelda game? But it's like, why is this? And I started to think about really the meaning behind all of this. Why do I play games these ways? And there's actually a very specific and very clear explanation for this. See, in the 80s and 90s, things were different. You didn't have a million games. Right now, you could boot up your PlayStation, your Xbox, your Nintendo, download dozens of free games. There's new things everywhere. There's cheap games all around you. But in the past, when you were little, that wasn't like that. I was born in 84. I moved to France in 95. That's only why I got my Super Nintendo. Now my brother had a Super Nintendo before then, so obviously I got to play it more. And my brothers also had video games, so you would borrow games from each other. My oldest brother, he had like F-Zero, A Link to the Past. My older brother, he had Final Fantasy VI and Secret of Mana. That's how you experience these things. And even on the original NES, one of my brothers, he had Kabuki Quantum Fighter and the Turtles. And another brother, he would have Blaster Master and Totally Red. That's how you played. And my uncle, we borrowed games from my uncle. Adventure of Link, Super Off-Road, Kid Icarus. There's so many games. So you would experience multiple games that way by borrowing from friends and family. But my own personal childhood video game collection consists of 13 games. These 13 NES games are all I had for the first 11 years of my life. Now, when I was a baby, my parents would literally put me in front of the NES when my brothers were playing because it's one of the only things that calmed me down. So the second I could hold a controller, I joined in. So all of us really, since we were very young, we had kind of a video game collection. These 13 games are my childhood. These 13 NES games is all I had for the first 11 years of my life. Because when you were a kid, you would get a game for Christmas or for your birthday. Very rarely, if you were fortunate enough, and I was fortunate enough, you would randomly get a gift from your parents. Tailspin of the original NES is one of those games I specifically remember getting as a gift. My younger brother, he got a giant stuffed animal. That's what he liked. I like video games, so I got Tailspin randomly as a gift. There's another one, Dragon Ball. The original Dragon Ball on the Nintendo. I got this as a gift. Actually, I got Skate or Die, and I hated that video game. I didn't like it. So I was too young still. My oldest brother went back into town to exchange it for a random other game, and he picked this one out for me. And that's how I got that one. That's how it worked. These 13 games is all I had to play for 13 years. So I rinsed these games. I didn't finish all of them. So Dragon Ball, I went through it so many times. Tailspin was pretty hard. The original Super Mario Bros. The original Zelda. These were my games for so much time. Kirby's Adventure, one of my all-time favorite video games still to this day. Mario, And Yoshi. A lot of people don't even know this game. It's a random puzzle game. I played this so much. I prefer this over Tetris. I'm not a big Tetris fan. I'm sorry. Bionic Commando. My all-time favorite NES game. One of my all-time favorite video games, period. Captain America and the Avengers. You played as Captain America and Hawkeye. That's why I never understood why Iron Man became so big. Rainbow Islands. The New Zealand story. I think the New Zealand story, it's called Kiwi Craze in America. Blue Shadow, which also has a different name. Shadow of the Ninja, I think, in America. Shadow Warriors, which is Ninja Gaiden. We didn't have the word ninja. We were not allowed to use the word ninja. We have the Hero Turtles. We have Shadow Warriors, Blue Shadow, and of course, one of the greatest Spells exclusive, New Ghostbusters 2. These are the only games I had for the first 11 years of my life. So you played them over and over and over. You rinsed these games, like Clocked would say. This is all you had. You played these games. You were playing Ghostbusters again. You put Zelda back in. Bionic Commando again. Let's play some more Captain America. All the time, over and over. For 11 years. Like I said, you borrowed games here and there from brothers and friends. But this was mine. This was all I had for 11 years. These 13 games. And so, over the years, you know, I just got sick and tired of playing the same thing over and over and over and sticking to one game over and over because that's all I did. And that carried over. It's not just the NES. In '95, when I got my own Super Nintendo and my own Super Nintendo library until the Nintendo 64 came out. That's these 14 games. Now, I personally think my personal NES library is pretty good. My personal Super Nintendo library, it's half and half. This is only where I bought, I think 3 or 4 of these games, I bought them myself for my pocket money that I saved up. That's how it was. You know, you didn't buy a lot of games yourself, so you were stuck with having this. This is my library for the Super Nintendo. Sailor Moon is a beat 'em up. I remember specifically buying this at a store. Dragon Ball Z, Butan, something. This is not. It's not Budokai. I always forget it because it's a Japanese import. I had to use a converter for this. Again, Illusion of Time. I put so much time into that game, and then there's these games here. My childhood Super Nintendo games. Killer Instinct. I specifically remember getting this at a market when visiting my grandma. Killer Instinct with the Killer Cuts CD. We have Mortal Kombat 3, which was my Mortal Kombat, which is probably why it's my favorite. Super Putty. I hate this game. I despise this game. It's so stupid. Ultraman, which is technically really garbage, but I don't know, I kind of like it. Home Alone, which I would consider one of the absolute worst video games out there. Home Alone for the Super Nintendo. This looks like a NES game, and it's so bad. It's so bad. Then we continue on with Eek the Cat. A game I really wanted to love, but it's so hard because the whole game is just one of those quests where you have a character and you guide them. The whole game is an escort game. Star Fox. Star Wing for the cultured people. Absolutely love this game. Played it to death over and over and over. The music is ingrained in my soul. These graphics. Secret of Evermore. One of the greatest RPGs ever made. I love this game so much. And while most people were playing Final Fantasy VI and Secret of Mana, which I borrowed from my brother, but this was my game. This was the one I owned. Secret of Evermore. Yoshi's Island. Super Mario World 2. One of the greatest games ever made. These are all my childhood boxes, my old childhood games. Plug! I love Plug. This is a great platform. It's really hard. I never beat it because it gets absolutely absurd. And when you play this on easy mode, you don't get to complete the whole game. That's how it used to work. Uni Rally. One of my favorite races of all time. The music, the tricks, the sound effects. This is such a great game. So these were my Super Nintendo games. These 14 games. I played and finished A Link to the Past and Final Fantasy VI, Secret of Mana, F-Zero. I did play all these games, but again, these were my brother's games. Those weren't mine. So these were the only games I had, like these Nintendo games, until I was almost 18 years old, I think, until I really started buying my own games. You know, I bought none of these Nintendo games myself. I bought maybe 2 or 3 of these Super Nintendo games myself. Then the Nintendo 64 came out. Again, you had all these gifts for Christmas and your birthday. That's what you do. You would select a game. What would you like? You know, what are you going to ask Santa? I want a video game. That's what you did. Those were the only chances you had. And then Nintendo 64 came out. And by that time, you would get a bit more money, you know. You would get a job slowly, so you could buy some more games. The GameCube is one of the first consoles where I really started buying almost every game myself. But that's why I play so many games. This is why I don't finish games. Because all I did as a kid was rinse these games over and over and over again, non-stop. These were the only games I could play. So now, as an adult, having such a wide access to Steam, every console that was ever made up until now, I just want to play as many games as I can. I prefer playing 5 games halfway through than finishing 1 game to the end. That's just how I play. That is why I play games the way I do when it comes to open world games, for example. I just get lost in this world and a new game comes out and I pick it up and I play it and then I go back to these older games. Even now to this day, some of these games I never even finished them. Some of them were just brutally hard. But most of these again are like burned in my mind because it's all you played as a kid. And I think for kids growing up these days, it's just not the same. Everybody plays games differently, but now these days you have access to everything. You can buy games for free. You know, you can buy games for free. On top of that, you have games just through all these libraries are just so cheap. But back then, there were no alternatives. You had the NES, you had the Super Nintendo, or you had the Mega Drive, the Sega Genesis, you know, that's how it is. And then that's the console you went for. And then you got 1 game here and there. If you're lucky, 2 games a year. If you were very lucky, you could get a random game throughout the year. And that's all you played. And that is why I don't finish games. I just want to play everything as much as I can. Now, realistically, I do finish games, you know. When you have a game like Zelda, you know, you get so lost and invested in it, you know, you keep playing it. When you have other games like Super Mario games, you know, you play it to the beginning to end. But even a game that you love to death, like for example Xenoblade 3, I'm still playing it now. Why did I not finish it yet? Because more comes out and I want to play it all. And then once I get a little bit like tired of something, then I go back to the games I love. And I go back and forth between my library, between my older games and new games. It's just how I play. I'm still playing so many games on Steam. Every single video game console that came out, I have a backlog on it. Because I move from game to game. Because for the first decade, not even that, almost the first 2 decades of my life, you were stuck playing the same games over and over and over. So I can't do that. I can't have 1 video game and play it from beginning to end for months of my life. Because that's all we used to do. Anyway, that's a random discussion here for a little bit. I just wanted to talk about some of these retro games here. Some of my old, show off my actual, it feels kind of strange looking at these 13 games. Because I look at this and it just, these games are a part of me. Like, it's so strange looking at these games right now, knowing that the first decade of my life, until I was 11 years old, this was all I played. These games are a part of me. These are my video games, my childhood video games. I just holding these, looking at these. It's such a strange feeling of nostalgia just looking at this. Just because you rinsed these games, you got such an attachment to them. Because you didn't have a choice. As a kid, you got the video games randomly. I didn't ask the original Zelda. I didn't ask my parents, oh, I want the original Zelda. No, as a kid, without internet back then, there was no internet, until I was like, 1998 is really when the internet started. The original Nintendo and the Super Nintendo were already out. You had like magazines. I had like a membership to a magazine. That's how you kind of learned of some games. But in general, it was always a surprise. You didn't know what you get. You didn't know it existed. Now there's all these super established franchises. But back then there wasn't. You had Mario and Zelda, really. Those were the things most people knew. And even then, it's not the way it is now with like 100 mainline games, 100 spin-off games for all these franchises. Back then, you got a game once or twice a year and you didn't know what it was. Until maybe the Nintendo 64 launched, and that was like 3D Mario, 3D Zelda, 3D F-Zero. Then you're like, I want Zelda, I want Mario. You were getting older, you knew all these things. But before then, you didn't have that. Let me know how you experienced video games in your childhood, how you grew up with them. Do you finish one game at a time from beginning to end? Would you like 2 or 3 games, 10 games, 50 games? How do you play your games? Do you actually finish every single game you start? Do you not buy a new game until it comes out? Why do you play games the way you do? For me, it's my childhood, and that's simply the way it has always been. Thank you all for watching this video. Leave your replies in the comment section below. I reply to absolutely everybody. Check out my social media, also in the video description. I have Twitter, TikTok, everything, Instagram. Thank you all for watching.